Now with the unit still upside down, I have to put a couple of cross members like this here to actually support the back. So I have two ways of doing that. Show you an old way and I'll show you a new way. We'll show you the new way first. I suppose the easiest way of doing it is to work with these guys, and these are called worktop brackets for securing worktops in position, but they're versatile little L brackets. Okay, they're just 3/4 of an inch square, so they'll just sit like that on the edge for those people that are unfamiliar with this practice. So all I want to do is put two of those onto the edge there. Now I'm back to the same idea again. I want to put three of them in position like that, so when it flips I can put one screw in here and two down. So I'm back to the same idea again. I put in a smaller pilot bit into this here. It doesn't matter the position, I just want them slightly, the barest little, I just want to start the screw, so a very small hole there, and I can get them in without the hole, but just for DIY purposes we would put a basic hole there. So I can just do the same thing here with this guy. Okay, now I know from my bit that I have in the tip here it isn't that sharp. Anyway, it'll just suffice for demonstration purposes. Now I'm gone down in size for screws again. So in this case here, I'm gone down now to a 3.5 by 16. I could use a 4 by 20 or a 3 by 20 also, because it won't go through. So I'm down to the drill bit. The drill tip is still the same one, but when I go to a smaller screw than that, this drill tip will end up being too large. So I have to go down to the next posi drill tip size. So I screw these guys into position here. So I'll just locate it on the hole and I screw it in and line it up. Now it's slightly to the left of the bottom here so that it'll pull down properly. So it can be flush or just a little bit less than flush. So a little bit less than flush means that there's a tiny step there, and that's good. I want that. So same thing there, just put on the third one. So that's going to sit in position like that there. Maybe I should just swing around this here so it can be seen more clearly. So that sits in position there. I'm not too fussed about it. This is just for myself here in the workshop, so I don't have to be too accurate. So I get another little pilot bit there, just get a start. There's already one there, and I put one here, and just get the start for the three holes just to screw them home. So that one in position there, 1, 2, and just straighten it up. I can put a square here if I want to be very fussy about it to actually have it perfectly square, but I'm just going by flush on the outside here. So I put my last screw in position here and I drive that home. So that's the first one. That's to screw on a member using worktop brackets. So that's one way of doing it. So the second way of doing it, we're going to use a very old technique which I use very often. It's called pocket screwing, which is the way we did things back in the 70s and the 80s when we didn't have access to all modern knockdown fittings. So we'll do that next. So in order to do what's called a pocket screw, we'll have this guy going in position here again, very same thing again. So assuming I don't have the positions here, what I use is a spade bit, and I can use what's called a Fossener bit, but this is a spade bit now. It's rough and ready. This is what we used to use a long time ago. Didn't everybody would use them nowadays, but it's just for demonstration, just to show you the technique. So I've got my piece to go on the edge here, and I put a 3/4 20mm line along there. The reason I do that is I'm going to use a 20mm screw to go through the timber, go through this. It'll be connecting this onto the base. So we'll just do the little housing first. So I need a line there about 20mm above, and I put the spade bit. Take out my drill tip. These are called spade bits or flat bits. Gets its name because of its flat front there, and a spade, everybody knows what a garden spade is, so that's where it takes its name from. So I have my panel here, and what I do with that, just to get it on camera, I I put the bit in straight here, lining up that shank there, the straight edge there with the line below. I'm going to go a little bit lower actually. I get it to purchase there first of all, and then what I'll do is I'll tilt the drill back out to myself. So I see it coming back out, and I'll tilt the drill and I'll watch it so as I wait for the tip of this to come through. I don't want it to come through, that's actually quite enough that I have there. So that's a spade bit giving you that little pocket there. Now there are jigs you can buy for this available on the market for doing a smaller or simpler version of that, but this is quite accurate. So go to the back. If I haven't got a 20mm line, I can actually assume 20mm line there just by doing that with my fingers, give you a rough 20mm there. I go to the far side, set up the drill again, and go back up here just so the camera can pick it up. That should be enough. You can see that the spur is just about coming through the back of it there. That's okay in this case. Now, I undo the drill tip or the pilot bit that I have here. I swap it back to the original pilot bit I had when I was screwing the carcasses together in the first instance, and I turn the underside here and I will drill a hole from the centre out like so. So you can see that on camera there. So that's what I'm after achieving. So I go there, turn it around, and I'm doing the very same thing from this side. Pick up the centre, so you'll see the drill tip, we'll pick it up there. Now, when I go to put that into position, I'm coming out here to the outside. So again, just so the camera will pick up this, we'll rotate. We'll rotate now, and we have this particular point in position here. I get a 4x30 and I place it in there. I get my spade bit out now, I'm done with that. Put my drill tip back in again. It's my standard posi drive drill tip. I just hold that tight, making sure it's out the front there, and I screw that into position there. Now, it's chipboard that I'm using here, so I don't want to overdrive it because it'll just break it out. I did the very same thing with the far side. You can put both into one side if you wish. I'm just showing it from both sides so as you can keep it actually from pulling one way or the other. So I go to this side and I just bring it in slightly from the edge here so that the screw doesn't come through on the edge, and I drive it home. And that's my second method of creating a fix. That's a technique of old, used it many thousand times. It's called a pocket screw. Very easy to produce, cost effective because you don't have to be buying plates. It just requires 2 screws. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. This is obviously the most modern way, and it's the fastest way, and it would be used by kitchen fitters all the time. They wouldn't normally even be using bases like I'm doing here, simply because they can get the screw on legs that you apply, the adjustable height legs. I don't have one to show you on camera at present. What we used to do in the olden days as well, when we needed a central piece, was we would use a V piece like that. We'd cut a V out of the centre piece like that. The reason for that is probably obvious enough, in that if the floor is anyway uneven, that if we did have to adjust anything on the back point here, that we could actually clean it off very quickly. We could plane it off with a hand plane to drop it down so that it's not uneven on the floor. Now the modern legs allow you to do the adjustments at all 4 points on any given unit. So it's much more easier, user-friendly way of doing it. So, but this is the old way of doing it from back in from the 60s right through to the 80s and probably into the 90s. And this is the little one here. So I'm just going to put a bracket there, and I'm going to put a bracket there just to finish off. So it's just a faster way of doing it. And I'm going to put a bracket here also, just at the corner, just to keep that steady. So I'll just keep doing that while we still have the video turned on. So again, I'm just, after I leave that one in it, I just want to start the screw. The other drill bit I had, I don't like using drill bits that have no edge on them. I don't like using any tools that have no edge on them. So just get that guy there. Back to 3.5s again here, or 5 by, what are they? 3.5s by 16s. That's the screw size. I have a tendency to put one plate on one side and one on the other. So I can get another 3.5 here. That's it. So I'll sit that in position there, and I'll just screw it home. Now in this case, just for want of doing it without a pilot hole, it's quite easily achieved just by positioning the screw. The pilot hole gives you easier access to the hole, and it's easier to get the screw started. That's one of its functions. So again, you can put a square, tri-square in here to square that if you wish. I like guessing them because when you become experienced, it's quite easy to assume 90 degrees. So I have that fell in there. I need some more fittings here, so I need another one in position there. So again, I won't bother with the pilot hole in this case because it's only a small plate. Maybe I should, but I didn't. Keep going with it there again and go back again. You can see now the reason why the pilot hole is so handy. I will go back to the pilot hole, otherwise I'm doing too much fiddling. I'll go in there, back in there again. Let's just give ourselves the pilot hole there. Bare amount, just enough to get the screw started, to position it. Put on my drill tip is there again, back in, and that's it. So I have one more to put on here also. Now again, just for people who don't understand what happens with cabinetry, in all modern kitchen units you'll see this happening here where the gables, which is the side piece of the kitchen unit, the gables are always wider than the actual bases. And the reason for that here, this cavity here, is to allow for access to services. So if there's pipes coming up around the kitchen for domestic appliances like your kitchen sink, dishwasher, washing machine and so on, that it allows access for the pipe work. So we can cut here to allow for pipes and so on, or we can do whatever we want. If there's pipes to come this way, we can actually take recesses out with a jigsaw to allow for the service pipes. That's what it's there for. It also allows a cavity behind the units to allow air to flow so that nothing gets too smelly behind the unit. So it allows for ventilation purposes as well. So there isn't much more I can say about this. This is just basic modern standard cabinetry. It's fitted kitchen furniture effectively, so it's not dealing with the solid, but mostly everything I'm doing here can be bought in flat pack. It's probably cheaper today to buy the carcasses, the carcass construction, which is just what you're looking at here, to buy them individually. They can be bought in different sizes. Maybe down the line I'll get a kitchen where I can demonstrate the whole fitting process for a kitchen from A to a Z. But to buy, these can be bought off the peg from any of the kitchen manufacturers in different sizes. So back in the day when I was an apprentice, we would actually have to make up these, so it was necessary to be able to make up cutting lists. You have to set out the whole unit, decide on what sizes everything was, do a cutting list, machine everything, edge everything, so we would do everything from start to finish. That would include making the front doors as well and making the worktops also. Mostly today you can buy stuff off the shelf and all different types, so the variety today is much greater than it was back then. So that's it, that's my bases done using two methodologies there. First one is the worktop brackets, just to put them into position there. They're all screwed to the front as well, very strong. I stopped it going here because I have pipes that I'm going to have to cut around below, so I'm going to actually be taking off some of the gable there. You'll probably notice as well that this here isn't that wide. Prior to doing the videos, I actually cut the original units down because I don't need a depth in the units for storage. not in a workshop. I just need a small amount of depth just for hole tooling and so on. So that's just my altered units, and that's over here, or on this one here, showing the actual pocket screw method of putting the panel in position. So that's another little bit of DIY information for you. Hope it's useful. We'll move on to the next one. By the way, the longer versions of the videos will be on YouTube, and if you like the channel, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Okay, onward and upward.